You're standing over a reindeer carcass in the Arctic cold, 40,000 years ago. You've already eaten what your body needs for today. The rest, the fat, the organs, the meat still clinging to bone. You bury under moss and loose stone, mark the spot with a cairn, and walk away. You won't come back for 3 weeks. By then it will be soft, sour, and moving with maggots. That's not spoilage. That's the plan. And you've done it before. Right now, you check the dates stamped on a milk carton before you'll touch it. You smell leftovers before you commit to them. You throw out anything sitting in the fridge more than a few days, just to be safe. And yet, somewhere in your kitchen right now, there's probably a bottle of fish sauce, a wedge of aged cheese, or a jar of kimchi. All of it deliberately rotted. All of it just called something nicer. For most of the people who lived through an ice age winter, the disgust reflex you rely on every day wouldn't have kept them safe at all. It would have gotten them killed slower, starving next to food they were too disgusted to eat. So why would an entire species, for tens of thousands of years, choose to eat meat after it had already started to rot? And how did that habit end up keeping them alive? In 2017, anthropologist John Speth, Professor Emeritus at the University of Michigan, published a survey of ethnographic records from Arctic and subarctic peoples spanning generations. Speth documented indigenous groups across Siberia and the North American Arctic who didn't just tolerate rotten meat. They prepared it on purpose, burying fish, seal fat, and caribou for anywhere from a few weeks to several months until it fermented into something closer to a cured delicacy than a corpse. One detail stood out across nearly every culture he studied. For children raised inside those traditions, the smell wasn't repulsive at all. It was just what dinner smelled like. Beasley, who later built on Speth's work, put it plainly: disgust isn't hardwired. It's taught, one meal at a time. So what were Ice Age humans actually doing to that meat? Chemically speaking, everyone assumes rotting meat means dangerous bacteria taking over unchecked. The truth is closer to the opposite. As meat decays, lactic acid bacteria multiply fast and starve out the oxygen-hungry pathogens that actually make people sick. It's the same chemistry that turns cabbage into sauerkraut, milk into cheese, grapes into wine. Given time and cold, it turns caribou into something that can sit safely in the ground for weeks without a single grain of salt. And as a side effect, it can help preserve nutrients like vitamin C that would otherwise break down. The same antiscorbutic trick sailors would later rediscover with barrels of pickled cabbage. That's not just a theory about the far north. In 2016, archaeologist Adam Boethius of Lund University excavated a 9,200-year-old fermentation pit at Norge-Sunnensund, a Mesolithic settlement site in southern Sweden. Inside a narrow, funnel-shaped trench lined with pine bark, his team found more than 13,000 fish bones, packed in without a trace of salt or smoke damage. It's the oldest known fermentation site on Earth, built thousands of years before anyone in that region had ever planted a crop. Clear evidence that people were choosing to settle in one place, at least for a season, just to let food finish becoming food. But that raises a stranger question. How did anyone figure out that the spoiled part of spoiled meat could be the best part? Fermentation didn't just preserve meat. It may have upgraded it. In a 2025 study published in the journal Science Advances, biological anthropologist Melanie Beasley of Purdue University measured nitrogen, 15 levels inside fly larvae feeding on decaying tissue. The muscle itself barely changed as it rotted. The maggots living inside it, though, spiked to nitrogen values as high as 43 parts per thousand, several times what the surrounding meat ever reached, and high enough to explain a decades-old puzzle. Why fossilized Neanderthal bones carry the same nitrogen signature as lions and wolves, animals that eat almost nothing but meat? Beasley's data suggests those maggots were converting lean, low-fat game into a dense, fatty food source. Exactly the nutrient Ice Age hunters were chronically short on. Everyone assumes maggots on meat are a sign the food has gone to waste. The truth is those maggots may have been the food itself, a free, self-replicating source of fat showing up right on schedule, doing the hardest part of digestion before a single bite was taken. That fat mattered more than most people realize. The human body can only process so much lean protein before the liver hits its limit, somewhere around 4 grams per kilogram of body weight, a fraction of what a wolf or lion can burn through. Go over that ceiling on pure lean meat alone, without enough fat or carbohydrate to balance it, and you get what's grimly nicknamed rabbit starvation. Malnutrition from eating too much of the wrong kind of protein, in a landscape with nothing else to eat. Fermented, fatty, maggot-rich meat wasn't a last resort. It was the fix. Storing meat that long only makes sense if there was more of it than anyone could eat fresh. At the Neumark Nord site in central Germany, archaeologists led by Sabine Godzinski-Windhuser and Lutz Kindler found that Neanderthals living there 125,000 years ago had processed the remains of at least 172 large mammals, including straight-tusked elephants weighing up to 13 tons. Animals that could yield over 2,000 daily food portions from a single kill. Nobody eats that in a week. It gets rationed, buried, and left to change while a group settles in nearby and waits. The real story here isn't that Ice Age humans were desperate enough to eat spoiled food. It's that somewhere along the way, without writing anything down, without a microscope, without a single word for bacteria, they engineered one of the oldest food preservation systems on the planet through pure trial and error. Bury it, wait, taste it, remember what worked. And it required them to override one of the strongest instincts a human body has: disgust. Every fermented food in your kitchen today is a direct descendant of that same trial and error, just rebranded as cuisine instead of survival. That reindeer under the moss and stone was never going to waste. 3 weeks in the cold ground didn't ruin it. It finished it. No refrigerator. No expiration date. No label telling anyone what was safe. Just generations of trial, error, and inherited trust in a process nobody could see happening. Somewhere between then and now, we decided decay and danger were the same thing. And we built entire industries around never having to make that judgment call ourselves again. A reflex to hold our nose at anything that smells like the past, even the parts of the past that kept us alive. The reindeer under the moss never rotted. It ripened, and somewhere along the way, we forgot the difference.